All right. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning. Well, now it's
Hey.
technically afternoon, so
Well, on the East
Yeah.
Coast.
for Pam, it's not.
Still morning here in
Yeah.
California.
Have your
Yeah.
iced coffee or whatever your beverage of
Hell
choice is.
yeah. Yep. Nice iced coffee.
Yeah. And it looks like we are live, y'all. So,
Cool.
yeah.
I should have made it black in tribute to our fearless
Yeah.
None
heroine
of us wore black.
Wednesday.
I know. And I feel like I do have the wardrobe to
Me
have
too. And
come
I
like
came
more
wearing
in character and
bright.
I
Yeah.
didn't.
Me too. I have
Yeah.
a lot of black polos from my job that I feel like I could easily have thrown one of those on, but maybe we're leaning a little more in the Enid direction. We're a little more
That's
colorful.
right. Yeah.
I will say I think like aesthetically I am a little bit more of an Enid girly when it
It's
comes
the
to like
hair.
the hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, I think the vibe is like the colorful hair and then the more monochrome
Yeah.
clothing.
Maybe you're an Enid sun and a Wednesday rising.
Maybe. Oh man, I love this version of astrology. Tell me more.
You would have loved the body swap then.
Oh, that we'll we'll get into that, but I freaking loved that episode.
Yeah. It was a highlight of, for
Yeah,
me, it was a highlight of the season.
agreed.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But any other vamping we want to do before we officially get started?
I think we can get started.
Yeah. If you're
All right.
listening live or you're watching this live, by the way, you can chat with us and we'll try and include your thoughts as well. I don't think we told people we were doing this live on YouTube, so I don't know how many people will show up, but
But hey, if
if
you
you're out
also,
there,
yeah,
You just
send in
happened to
your
find
Wednesday
us.
season 2 part 2 thoughts.
All right. Welcome back to What the Hype. This week, we'll be talking all about season two of Netflix's Wednesday. So, just want to do a pulse check here at the start. Everybody's right hand is good.
Still intact.
yes,
Okay.
has not wrestled itself free from my body. I'll take that as a win.
Well, excited, Laura and Pam, that you're both here to discuss season two. And we last discussed Wednesday, the first four episodes of season two, back on episode 59. So if folks need a refresher, definitely go and check it out because in just a few moments, we'll be diving into spoiler territory. And that means if you haven't finished season two of Wednesday, well, too bad. You've been warned.
Yeah, here there be spoilers.
So the natural place to start is just with our overall initial thoughts. I know we're going to do a little bit of a recap and then a deeper dive into some of the bigger moments, but how are we all feeling about how season two turned out?
Honestly, really good. The last time we talked about this, I think I mentioned that I wasn't sure how they were going to wrap everything up because there were so many moving parts that they introduced just in the first four episodes alone. But I think they did a really good job of tying up, I think, almost every loose end that they introduced, right? And then also like leaving us on the hook for more for season three, but it wasn't anything that necessarily carries over. So I'm actually really impressed by the way they were able to do that in 8 episodes, honestly, because I was concerned for a minute there.
Yeah, so I'll echo that. I honestly felt like the pacing of part 1 left something to be desired. I still enjoyed it and I was obviously still committed for the long haul. But part 2 was so refreshing on that front because the pacing was so on point. They really didn't have any wasted screen time. There were so many beats, like story beats and character beats that really came together in part 2. Because kind of like you, Pam, in part 1, I was like, like, where are we taking this? Like, there's only 4 more episodes after this, and there's been a lot of new character introductions, a lot of new world building, and I wasn't sure how they were gonna bring it all together, but they really did. I loved the second half of season 2. It was really, really good.
I agree as well. I found very few holes to poke in this season,
Yep.
and I know we can talk a little bit more about those later on in the episode. But for me, with the first half of season two, I was concerned because of the storylines they actually wrapped up in that first half, where, okay, you know who Wednesday Stalker is, you know
Yeah.
who's behind the bird attacks. Where are we going in the second half of season two? And who's going to maybe come to the forefront to get a little bit more screen time? But actually, that doesn't happen because Wednesday wakes up from her coma almost immediately, right? Maybe within
Yeah.
the first few minutes of episode five. We had talked about on the prior episode how maybe Enid or another character would get a little bit more front and center. And of course she does, but it's really, opposite Wednesday. And we thought maybe Wednesday would be sidelined for an episode, but no, it's maybe about 30 seconds.
Yeah. No, they definitely picked it up very quickly and didn't really dwell on yeah, the injuries or anything that happened to her at the end of part 1. They just got
Mhm.
right back into it.
Yeah, and I guess they kind of have to because there was, I mean, like you were both saying, see, the part two of the season was really jam packed, and I don't think they could afford to sideline her with everything. She
No.
kind of had to work through and go through as well, including a new spirit guide, right, Micah?
Yeah, we got a nice cameo from Brienne of Tarth. She is officially back in in Nevermore. But yeah, just to go through a recap of the second half of season two. As mentioned, we last left Wednesday in a coma, but she is very fast to recover, and in the process learns that she has a new spirit guide, as Pam just mentioned. So welcome back, Principal Weems. She was
She was
just
fantastic.
too good not to
Yeah.
be in season two,
Yeah.
I guess.
Honestly, good for them because Gwendolyn Christie was great in the first season, and I think a lot of us were disappointed that she got killed off. And this was a really, really clever way to bring her back for at least one other season. I don't. It seems like it was a final goodbye towards the end, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they may have left the door open to go
Yeah.
one way or the other, but she's definitely a fan favorite, so it wouldn't surprise me if they found a way for her to cameo
Mm-hmm.
occasionally, because obviously Wednesday, like, we'll get into where the series leaves things, but she's definitely gonna have some problems next season. Um, so yeah, I was very pleased with that. And also I just loved the sass and the shade that she
Yeah.
threw at Wednesday, and like, honestly, well deserved. Like, I
And she
was like,
threw it at
yeah,
Morticia too. It wasn't
yeah,
just
Mm-hmm.
one, it was both mother and daughter that got their fair share of sass from Principal Weems.
yeah, it was a vibe. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Someone else who came back is Tyler. We kind of got a glimpse of him in part one, but really kind of came into the forefront in the back half of this season. Still has his sights set on killing Enid. And so his whole plan is to do that. And so then Enid and Wednesday kind of come up with a plan to incorporate the Nightshade Society into kind of luring him out. And Wednesday's getting pretty reckless at this point as well,
Yeah,
because her plan is to inject him with a potion that will make him like basically beholden to her. So she'll be the new Hyde Master now that he killed off the old one. And it's actually Morticia that ends up making sure that this doesn't happen. And she does this with the help of Francois, who we met very briefly in the asylum in part one. Turns out she's Tyler's mother. And so Morticia allows her to go and take control of Tyler in Hyde form, and then the promise that she makes to Morticia is that they will leave Jericho. But spoilers, that doesn't really work out. So
Never trust a hide, isn't
Yeah.
that what they
there you
say?
go. That is what they say.
Yeah.
That was a big surprise, though, because we were wondering who, in fact, this woman was. There was some talk about whether or not it was her Aunt Ophelia,
That's what
and
I thought,
Yeah,
and
I
there.
thought
honestly.
so too.
But I think you mentioned this on the last episode, Pam, that Fester didn't recognize her. So if Fester didn't recognize her,
Yeah.
then unlikely that she was a long lost Adams family member.
True. Yeah, that could have been that should have been a hint, but I feel like they did a really good job of setting it up to make you think that's who we were going to be getting, especially with all of the cryptic information we were getting from Wednesday's various visions. And I mean, ultimately we'll find out that, Ophelia was a different kind of, prisoner than, Francoise was, but Tyler's mother isn't his only living relative, as we learn that after Slurp, eats enough brains to regenerate himself, he is in fact Isaac Knight, Francoise's brother and Tyler's uncle. Um, this brother sister relationship was definitely giving me like Fall of the House of Usher, Madeline and Roderick Usher vibes because
Jamie and Cersei Lannister
yeah,
vibes.
Sweet Home Alabama
I
vibes.
honestly I was finding myself feeling like, is Isaac Tyler's uncle or his daddy?
I
Because
was getting there too, especially when they were like, there was that one scene where they're like, they shot them in the mirror embracing, and then as soon as he comes in, they're like, oh, we can't be touching. It was
yeah.
weird.
Yeah, well, and I think that and we can maybe talk about this a little bit too, but there is a lot of literary influence in this series. I mean, lots of allusions to Hamlet, lots of references to Poe. And I feel like this brother sister duo really was modeled after the brother sister duo in The Fall of the House of Usher. Where ultimately, they both end up, you know, the fall of the House of Usher, it falls, right? That's the name of the story. It ultimately all ends up falling apart because of the incestuous nature of those characters. So I feel like there was definitely some inspiration drawn from that, and I just really appreciate how this series has done that. How there are like multiple layers that you can analyze from it, but you know, uh, Tyler's mother and Isaac all eventually meet up and take refuge in the bunker that Tyler's father built as a safe house in case Tyler got, a little crazy growing up. And they began plotting against the Addams family.
Yeah, quite the family reunion.
Yeah, definitely was. Yeah. Imagine waking up to your mom being like, hey, you want pancakes? But then you look down and you see that you're like chained to the bed.
And
Awkward.
let's we can talk about too the mother son dynamic because that is also um, interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it definitely speaks to, I think, some of Tyler's character, that he ultimately seeks out other female characters that he perceives to have a level of control over him, but he really struggles with it at the same time. Like, he doesn't want it, it seems like, but he also thinks that he needs it. And I
Hmm.
mean, if you think about the way he was raised, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I would argue though at this particular moment, Tyler needs more of a gentle touch, and his mother is actually quite physical, right? You just
Yeah,
mentioned the fact
very
that he's
abusive.
chained to the bed. She slaps him at one point, and then ultimately the decision that she makes on his behalf to remove his powers, which is a big part of what happens in the finale. So, and that may just be a byproduct of what Francois has gone through being in captivity for so long. And the fact that she wants her own powers removed, you know, um, she kind of passes that along, or at least, I don't know, the fact that she is willing to make that decision on behalf of her son and not give her son the choice.
Yeah, it strips him of his autonomy, and I think it's definitely a commentary of parents who project their own wants and desires on their children, and that, as a child growing up in the circumstances that Tyler did, it would probably make it really confusing to know what you actually want,
Hmm.
right? And it is kind of like a mother knows best situation. It is creepy. There's
Well, especially
yeah.
because he can be controlled so easily. Like the
Yeah,
compulsion is to obey.
right.
Right. Well, Wednesday during all of this is still very much fixated on her vision and hellbent on protecting Enid. Remember, she had this vision that Enid was going to die. So she enlists the help of Grandmama because, let's face it, Morticia has not been much help to her throughout
Mm-mm.
this season. And Grandmama lets her know that she can actually temporarily restore her powers by consulting a fellow raven by the name of Rosaline Rotwood. So this just happens to be the same Rotwood whose cottage the Adams family is staying in during this season. And this character is played by none other than Lady Gaga. So we get her cameo in the back half of this season. But I guess the easiest way to sum it up is things don't go exactly as planned. Wednesday and Enid end up swapping bodies with each other, essentially kind of fulfilling this prophecy because unless they're able to truly understand each other and kind of walk in each other's shoes, they're both going to die by the time the sun comes up. Suffice it to say, they're able to make everything work out. But as a result of this, a new prophecy comes about. And this time, instead of Enid, it's an Adams family member that's going to die. But the top half of the gravestone is broken, so we don't get to see which Adams.
Right. I just have to say the body swap episode really was such a highlight, and I mean, props to Jenna Ortega and Emma Myers because they fucking nailed it. Like knocked it out of the park. I was so impressed. I knew they were strong actors because I've seen them both in other things, but this was just such a treat. Like seeing Wednesday parade around in multicolored clothes and like twerking in the middle of campus and really freaking her peers out with how bubbly she was being was so fun. And Emma Myers really nailed that like deadpan Wednesday attitude, which is, I mean, what makes it fun is that they are polar opposites in so many ways. But I love that they got this experience because I mean, it did ultimately bring them closer together as friends and as characters. And I don't know that that's necessarily something that we got as much in the last season. It was kind of like Wednesday and Enid were kind of like, they're kind of like an odd pair, but somehow it works. And now you really understand why it works.
Yeah, I think that they definitely took like two steps back with their friendship because, I think that the highlight of season 1 for me was that it wasn't really like the true love story was Wednesday realizing that she can have friends and that
Yeah.
friendship is not a weakness, right? And the one of the highlights of that season definitely was the both of them realizing that there had been a friendship that had been growing there the whole time. But things get really tense in this season between the two of them. And part of it is because Wednesday's holding on to this big secret. And the other part is that Enid doesn't want to be seen as weak, which is understandable because that's a sore spot for her. So yeah, I kind of felt like part of me feels like a lot of this episode felt like a filler, but I think that they did redeem it with like the revelation in the end. I think that's without that it would have felt like it was like we don't have time for this, but it was really cute and it was fun. You know what I mean? To do the Freaky Friday swap. I actually was
Yeah.
reading in an interview that Emma Myers had no idea that this was happening until like they were a couple episodes into shooting because the writers like to keep the episodes close to the chest, so that actually makes the acting even more impressive that she didn't really have too much time to really perfect her Wednesday impersonation, as a result of just like not realizing that this was the thing that was going to happen when the season started shooting. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it all of this also sets us up for, the ultimate sacrifice that Enid makes for Wednesday. And,
Mm-hmm.
we'll chat about that a little more when we get to the end of the season, but, also sets up the premise for season 3. At
Mm-hmm.
least what's going to be a significant chunk of it. I don't know if it'll be something that's addressed in the first half of the season or if they'll spend the whole season chasing Enid down, but I'm here for it. It's going to
Yeah.
be fun.
I really enjoyed that episode, and I do like how they wrote it so that all the little bits of information that each of the characters find out about the other because of who maybe they otherwise wouldn't have interacted with, right? Like the moment between Enid and Morticia. And so I just thought that it was a nice kind of break from a lot of the other episodes being so dark. There was a little bit of lightness and some positivity, which you don't always get in Wednesday. But just kudos to Tim Burton and the writers for that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Coming up on one of the bigger revelations we got this season, we actually learned that Isaac and Francois were at school with Gomez and Morticia, and that it was actually Isaac's experiment on his sister to eliminate her from her hide powers that led to Gomez losing his abilities and essentially being powerless. So we learned that he actually, like Uncle Fester and Pugsley, had the, like this power of electricity. And the plan was for him to help Isaac power this machine. But what he didn't know was that Isaac was planning to drain him completely of life so that he could save his sister. And what is perhaps even the most shocking, I don't know if either of you saw this coming, I sure didn't, is that Isaac's death is actually what ultimately led to the creation of Thing, which I know we're going to tackle a bit later because Thing really plays a big part in the climax of this season. But I definitely did not see a Thing origin story coming.
Me neither, and I love that they gave that to us.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of picking my mom's brain about this because she used to watch the reruns of the old TV show when
Oh,
she would come home
yeah.
from school and stuff. And so we were just kind of talking about some of the influences from the original show, but she was talking about in the original show, Thing wasn't much of a thing. Like it was kind of a little bit of a gag. He just came out of a box and he like got the mail and stuff. Like there
Yeah, he was
really
like an
just
extra butler.
yeah, there just really wasn't much to it. And I love how they kind of took that cuz Thing was also having a crisis of identity throughout this season, feeling like forgotten and kind of left out by his family and kind of feeling like they only view him as a butler. There was that whole sequence in the first half of the season where things just like they forgot my birthday. They
Mm-hmm.
only care about me insofar as what I can do for them. So the fact that they took that and built it out into a much more compelling backstory, I think that was also another season highlight for me and something I genuinely did not see coming.
Hmm. And he goes to therapy too. There was that
Yeah.
cute scene that
Oh,
was
that
put
was great.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good moment for Christopher Lloyd too. It's always fun to see these Adams Family movie cameos pop
Yeah.
in and yeah, in different ways that
And like
Nevermore.
Pilgrim World.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really good Easter egg.
That was really nice.
And we also learned that technically Morticia created Thing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
she chops off
Yes.
Isaac's hand when he is trying to electrify Gomez, and everything backfires. And Thing is the one who, I guess, is the recipient of some of the energy, and it kind of gives him the sentience that he otherwise didn't have.
Hmm.
Totally. And obviously like we're kind of looking at cycles repeating themselves in this story ultimately because and this is the sad part, Pugsley put so much time and effort into caring for Slurp because he really wanted a friend. He didn't have any friends at Nevermore. He took care of him, he defended him, he ultimately let him escape when the police were right on top of him, only for Slurp to turn around, Slurp, aka Isaac, to turn around and say, hey, I still want to relieve my sister of her hide condition. And oh, hey, you have the same power that your dad did. So I'm going to kidnap you. And we're going to basically try to, rinse, wash, repeat this whole cycle. So ultimately, Wednesday does attempt to save Pugsley, but and this was like, I don't know, it made me feel very claustrophobic. Any kind of like buried alive story does, but Wednesday is buried by Isaac and company as well as Tyler, buried alive and left for dead so that they can take Pugsley and go do this horrible, experiment that is ultimately going to backfire. But thankfully for Wednesday, Agnes, her stalker, whose power is she can go invisible, is hanging around and runs to get Enid from her wolf pad, where, I mean, she's in the Lupin cages, as they're called, because she's trying really hard not to wolf out, because she's had this revelation that, if an alpha wolf transforms under the full moon, they might get stuck like that forever and ultimately be stuck being a lone wolf who is without a pack, right? And, Enid has this line too where she tells Wednesday, like right before this happens, you're my pack. And so ultimately that informs the decision that Enid makes, which is to say, hey, we're not going to be able to dig her up fast enough. I can hear her heartbeat. She's still alive, but just barely. And we got to move quickly here. So she decides to wolf out under the full moon, gets Wednesday out of there. But ultimately, Enid takes off after that because she knows what she's done. She knows what she's sacrificed in order to save her friend.
Isn't one of the constituencies too that like not only will she not have a pack, but that like the other werewolves will kill her
They'll hunt
because
her
she's too
down.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, she knows she has to leave because if she stays, she's putting herself at risk. But yeah, and then to like your point about what she says to Wednesday, she also makes her promise that she'll go find her. So yeah,
Yeah.
it sets it up really nicely.
Yeah. Well, Laura, you also mentioned about how history is starting to repeat itself. So back at Iago Tower, we're in very much the same situation as what happened years prior with Gomez. It's now happening with Pugsley. And things start to go crazy, right? Isaac, we learn, was at the request of his sister asked to, instead of removing her condition because she believes that it's too late for her, to remove Tyler's condition. And so after Tyler straps down Pugsley, Isaac grabs Tyler and puts him on the table. And you can see that Tyler's, and I want to talk more about Tyler because he definitely feels a sense of betrayal here, both by his uncle and by his mother. And it's ultimately Wednesday who shows up and frees Tyler from this situation, but not before Tyler asks her to kill him. And Wednesday, frees him instead of killing him. And her rationale for it is that she missed. And we know that Wednesday doesn't miss. So I'm
No.
curious just to like take a pause here, what your thoughts are on this particular moment. And is this setting up more between these two characters down the road?
I really hope that it is setting up Tyler to get what he deserves ultimately. Like, I'm kind of hoping that we're not about to do a redemption arc for Tyler. And I mean, I was reading on Reddit that there are some fans that are kind of gunning for this idea of a redemption arc so that Wednesday and Tyler can maybe rekindle their romance. And I'm like, I don't see how that happens after a man actively watches you get buried alive. And yeah, he looks a little conflicted about it in the moment, but he still leaves her there. So I'm just like, I don't see how there's any hope for these characters to rekindle anything. So I wonder if this was Wednesday, maybe thinking, you're going to get yours, but not yet. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that might be the case. I also just think that she kind of knew that she needed him to
True.
distract his mother, and I think maybe she thought, okay, like if and he's also like upset about the fact that they've tricked him into doing this, right? So, he's kind of feeling vengeful, and I think she's hoping that he'll follow that extreme feeling, and that they'll keep each other occupied while she has a better shot at making sure Pugsley doesn't die. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of what do they call them, like Weiler shippers out there, so that doesn't surprise me. I mean, where there's a show, there's a ship. So it doesn't surprise me to hear that Reddit is abuzz with people hoping there's a redemption arc there. And I think that they're very smart in the writers' room with the way that they've kind of played this up, because it's not necessarily that like I think you could see it kind of going either way. But we have her Jenna Ortega say that she doesn't feel like ultimately Wednesday is interested in romance the way other traditional
Right.
characters would be. So I would be very, very surprised if they're just not like using something like this as like a bait, an easy bait for people that want to see some kind of romance in there.
Yeah. I will say, Pam, you just made me think of something with relation to Wednesday's decision to free Tyler. When you mentioned, that Tyler is feeling betrayed by his family, Wednesday kind of feels betrayed by hers too
Yeah,
throughout
yeah,
this season because there's been a lot that's been kept from her. And ultimately, I think keeping a lot of those family secrets from her has ultimately played out to her detriment. Like, it has not helped her or protected
yeah.
her in any way. So maybe there was some empathy there.
Well, one of you mentioned that it like with Tyler and Francois, it's like a mother's knows best situation. I think that that's what we've been seeing Morticia kind of try and pull on
Yeah.
Wednesday without very much success. But there is a point when they realize that Pugsley's been taken that she's like, "Hey, mom, no more lies," and she's still trying to keep secrets. And I think that they by the end of the season, she realizes how dangerous it is to keep secrets since they keep coming back to haunt this family. but it takes a while to get there to that point. So yeah, maybe that is, uh, to your point, maybe that is the place where they kind of see eye to eye, just in this moment. So
Yeah,
I do
I love
think
that.
that we are headed to some sort of redemption for Tyler. How that's going to play itself out remains to be seen. But as was alluded to, by freeing Tyler, there's this big Hyde battle that takes place, really cool action sequence, and it ultimately results in the death of Tyler's mother. And that also, in a way, frees him, right? This is kind of the second freeing moment for him because he's no longer under her control and he is free to do what he wants now. Although we know that a hide without a master is not a good thing, particularly on the male side. So more to come on what happens to Tyler by the end of this season, but in a very kind of big moment. And look, things are not going very well for the Galpins and the Knights here. It's and for Tyler, it's got to be tough too because he has found his family, he's found his mother, he's found his uncle, and now they're both going to be taken away from him. And it's ultimately Thing that shows his true allegiance and decides that he is going to rip out Isaac's heart. And is this like a Poe reference here? There's got to be something here. I'm not sure which story it is. Is it the Telltale Heart?
Yeah, no, I think there are definitely some loose allusions there for sure. Um, yeah, I think that we could probably do a really in-depth reading on stories like that to draw comparisons
Mm-hmm.
to things that happen in the show. Um, but it was just like poetic justice for Thing to be like, no, I have autonomy. I am my own person, which was kind of the whole point of the therapy sessions he was going to was, even though we are like we are more than the sum of our parts, right? We are whole, even if we don't know exactly where we came from. And Thing really gets that full circle moment when he's like, "No, I will not be your right-hand man."
Well, and in like the sequence as it plays itself out, he's trying to kill Wednesday, right? With Thing being like at the actual forefront of this attack, right? He's using the hand to try and
Yeah.
drain the life from her, and Thing wants nothing to do with that, right? Because I mean, you can make the argument he loves Wednesday at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So much like when all of them were at Nevermore years ago, Yago Tower explodes. Thankfully, all of the Adams family are safe, and then we get the moment, as mentioned, where Thing turns on Isaac, rips out his heart, and there's this really kind of you could say like emotional scene of Thing detaching himself from Isaac and crawling back to the Adams family.
Yeah. It was um it was very wholesome in like a macabre sort of way, which I would expect nothing less from this show.
Hmm.
yeah, they really just like I feel like the way that they've fleshed out Thing as a character is just so impressive considering that he doesn't speak and he's just a hand. But then I keep thinking back to, season one where he almost died and I was like sitting there crying watching
Yeah.
this like hand slowly lose life. And it's kind of like the same way you feel bad that he feels bad, even though, there's no expression. It's I don't know. I'm just continuously impressed by how they have literally fleshed out a character that has no facial expressions, no lines, no nothing really.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
Well, to wrap things up here, we leave Wednesday off, as we've alluded to a few times in this discussion, heading up north with Uncle Fester. I'm glad they brought Uncle Fester back because
Me
he kind of
too.
disappeared into the night. And I was just like, wait a minute. It just felt like he was missing from a lot of this third act. And
I
so,
agree.
yeah, that was the only thing. But anyway, so they are heading off together on his motorcycle to find Enid because she was seen heading up north towards Canada. And then Miss Capri also makes a bit of a comeback. She's been an interesting character this season because she kind of, there's always been something kind of shifty about her. And we see her have this moment with Tyler where basically she offers him a pack, which supposedly will help keep him safe. So we find out that even though she's a werewolf, her father was a Hyde, and so she might have some information that will be beneficial to him. Pugsley also gets a nice little like wrap up to his story. He finds a friend, and they're gonna hang out this summer. That's all he's wanted this whole time, so it just kind of feels like a nice way to put a bow on his story. But I think that the biggest revelation here is that Antophilia is alive, and it turns out Grandmama's been keeping her locked up in a
Hmm.
cellar.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely a big cliffhanger to end off of because it definitely seems like we'll be seeing more of her in season 3. Did you guys get that vibe too?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, especially with what she was writing on the wall.
Right.
Wednesday must die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It also made me wonder too, and we can kind of dive a little bit deeper now. What else does Grandmama have in her basement? Because it
Oh,
wasn't
that's a
just
good question.
one like locked space that was down there where Anophilia was
Yeah.
hiding out. It looked like she has, some skeletons down there for sure.
Yeah. Like,
And
did
what
you
does
think?
Lurch must know all of it because he's, it's like he's everybody's right hand in the Adams
Right.
family. But we see him go down there with her. And you had actually sent me an interesting theory about Lurch, Micah. And it's that we haven't really talked about the fact that he has this strange eye that, we see in all the crows and stuff like that. So maybe there's more to him.
And we do see that Raven at the end of the finale as well, flying, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we know that at least the original avian was killed by Slurp. So, who's controlling that Raven now?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't really. I think they've been very strategic with Lurch to not. Like, I think they've been using him in a lot of ways that maybe we, like viewers, haven't put together yet, but probably in season 3, we're going to learn more. I was definitely wondering the same thing about like what else is in Grandmama's basement. And I was like, is cousin
Or
it
who else?
down there?
Yeah.
Like, because there are definitely other members of the Adams family that we haven't met yet. Cousin it is really the one that comes to mind for me. But there is another grandmother character because uh, and this is just me talking to my parents because they remember the reruns of the show, but like there were like it was like a multi-generational household that they were living
Yeah.
in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think we're gonna meet more people, and I think it's gonna turn out that Grandmama is probably got some nefarious intentions. I mean, I think that comes across in the way she's played by Joanna Lumley, she was fantastic. I freaking loved her. The only other thing I really know her from is Absolutely Fabulous. I don't know if y'all ever saw
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
Britcom. Oh, it's so funny. You
Mm-hmm.
really should watch it if you haven't. That'll be like my unofficial recommendation. But she nailed this part. I loved her. Every time she was on screen, it was just delicious. Like,
Mhm.
Wonderfully diabolical.
Well, and so much of this particular season was about family. It felt like whether you were talking about Tyler's family, you were talking about
Mhm.
the Adams family, where you're talking about found family. And Grandmama, she was interesting because even in the moment where, because she's present, you learn that Gomez lost his powers because she's so critical of him, and I guess critical of Morticia for marrying him, somebody who doesn't have any quote unquote ability. She doesn't seem to really flinch. Like it registers for her, and you would think somebody who really did so much to protect her daughter would have a little bit more empathy for Gomez, particularly in that moment, but it doesn't seem to affect her.
You
I think
know?
she's just one of those people that doesn't like to be proven wrong. And she had said, that whole thing about how like she felt like Gomez was less than because he wasn't an outcast enough because he didn't have a power. Clearly did not know that the reason why he's powerless. Just thought that her daughter married you know, a guy that was not suited for her, was beneath her. But yeah, it's interesting because, like, we really do get three different mother child dynamics this whole season. And Morticia is hard on Wednesday in a different way. But then seeing how Grandmama treats Morticia, it kind of you kind of see how she's trying to break the pattern in her own way, but then she's also hard on Wednesday in her own way because she doesn't
Yeah,
trust her similarly like how her mother didn't trust her. So lots of generational trauma to go
totally.
around.
It's like, yeah, Morticia, like, I think she swung so far in the opposite direction from her mother that, like, the way that ended up manifesting for her with Wednesday was through withholding,
Yes.
and that it's like she tells herself it's because she wants to keep her daughter safe, but it's like, is there more to it than that? Um,
Right.
a little interesting lore, and again, I got this from my mom because my parents watched with me, and they loved it too. But me and my mom were talking about it this morning before we hopped on to record this, and she was like, in the original TV show, Gomez was originally supposed to marry Ophelia, and he didn't want to.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I wonder if that's going to be a thread that they pull on in season 3, because it's clear there are more family secrets inbound. Like
Mm-hmm.
this theme of family secrecy is definitely going to carry over.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they are setting up like Grandmama to be at the center of the next family secret.
Mhm.
And I think that that makes sense to kind of move it along because we've had two seasons where Morticia is in some way front and center. This time Gomez is involved, but he was kind of involved last time too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, spread that around, I guess.
I did appreciate it. Felt like we got more screen time with both of those characters this time, and I really appreciated it. I thought those two, it was clear they were having a lot of fun with the
Mm-hmm.
roles, and whereas like in the first season I kind of felt a little bit of a lack of those characters,
Yeah,
bringing that, like, really having them in the Nevermore sphere, just gave us a lot more exposure to them. And I felt like it made Morticia in particular a lot more three-dimensional than she was in season 1. I don't know if that's just my personal take, but like I really felt like we got more with those characters to sink our teeth into.
I agree. And I do think on some level that came at the expense of the other students because I don't feel like we got as much time with them as we did in season 1. And
Mhm.
I know at the top I had said, you know, if I had to poke a few holes here, one of them would be that we didn't really get to see as much of the students' powers as we did in season 1, or maybe there was more of season 1 them kind of coming into their powers. And I wondered if that had to do with the fact that because Wednesday lost her ability that we didn't maybe get the other characters showcasing their ability. It, you know where I'm, you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, I think part of it too was that they spent so much time with like trying to flesh out Principal Dort's character, and that really only left
Yeah.
time to explore what was going on with Bianca and her mother, which honestly, like, this was probably the most boring storyline
I
out of the whole
agree.
I'm
season
glad you
for
said
me.
that.
Yeah. I mean, like, the even like to the point where like the big Dort reveal with him being like a big lying cheat basically was not even like as exciting as I feel like it should have been.
No.
Right. Well, because we kind of knew.
Yeah.
I mean, it was clear that Steve Buscemi like knew the role that he was playing the entire time.
He does
Right.
sleazebag well.
He
Yeah.
totally does, and he was fantastic, by the way.
Oh, he
But
was.
I will say I kind of felt like he was underutilized in the first half of the season because I did walk away from that being like, okay, what's the point of this? Where are they taking this? And I will say, if I had one critique of the pacing of this season, I feel like the Principal Dort revelation could have actually come in part one. Like, I
Yeah.
really think they could have gotten to the point faster on that. And I think it would have allowed everything to fall into place.
I
I
agree.
Yeah, the Principal Dort stuff, like it did feel kind of like a little disjointed to
And
Mhm.
me.
Yeah. It
Pam, oh,
oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I was going to agree with what you. I think all of these pieces are kind of tied into each other because with Gomez and Morticia coming to the forefront, it felt like some of the students, let's say Bianca, Ajax, kind of went to the background, and that whole storyline with Dort, I it just there was nothing to like really latch on to. And the whole revelation about him being at the head of Morning Song, it's like Morning Song really wasn't even built into anything of substance
Mm-mm.
other
Yeah.
than, Bianca and her mom being a part of it at one point. And, the whole like opening of one of the episodes where Dort is in the bar in, I think they're in Miami. And, like it just didn't fuse together, I think, in maybe the way that they were hoping to. I wonder also is like, was there more to this storyline that just was left on the cutting room floor?
Yeah, maybe.
Possible. Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I kept forgetting like what we were supposed to find important about it. And to your point about the episode opening with him being in that bar, I actually had thought that I had switched over to another show because that like that warm glow, and it was just like it was so normal looking that it felt out of place
Yeah.
for the entire Wednesday aesthetic or the Nevermore aesthetic. And I guess that's the point, right? But it was a little disjointed.
Yeah, well, and I think all of it was in the name of bringing Grandmama into the story. Like
Right.
Right.
it really, and
Right.
it feels like you could have still done that. You could have just really consolidated the way that you told that story and had it
Yeah.
happen in part 1.
They just had to get all of them in one spot, and they
Yeah.
wanted to do probably another dance number. And so of course the climax had to for that particular storyline had to exist in the context of the
The gala.
the whatever the school ball was that this year.
Yeah.
It also
Yeah.
felt like part of it was to build the relationship between Bianca and Ajax. Not sure where that is
Yeah.
going, but it is Ajax who comes to the rescue and, let's presume for the time being at least, kills Principal Dort. I know nobody is ever dead in this series, it seems like, but his moment felt kind of final. I don't know how you come
Yeah.
back from a
Uh-huh.
Gorgon stare.
Yeah, and then getting
Shattered.
shattered to pieces by a falling
Mhm.
chandelier. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll come back as a spirit
Maybe.
in some capacity.
I did want to ask though, do we feel like the headmaster position is the um, equivalent, like Defense Against the Dark Arts position
Yeah.
in Harry
Yeah, it's
Potter?
starting to feel that way.
Yeah, it's like who's the headmaster this season? That is going to
Who's
start.
gonna die?
Yeah. But also I'm wondering about like how much focus on Nevermore are we going to have going forward, cuz it
I
also
was
kind
wondering that too.
it feels like maybe the story has explored all it's going to explore at Nevermore, because I mean we're left with that whole quote like nevermore was nevermore, and Wednesday jets off for her road trip with Uncle Fester, which, oh my god, I'm so here for that. That's going to be amazing. um but I don't know if the continued focus on the family secrets is going to take us somewhere else ultimately next season. I mean, we know part of it's going to be the hunt for Enid, but I have to think we're maybe going to end up at some different locales.
Hmm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do like a whole road trip season to that point, or if we do come back. Maybe it'll take place outside of the school year. I mean, like this season started off before the school year started,
Right.
so it's not out of the realm of possibility for sure.
Yeah. So, kind of before we wrap things up here, I did want to talk a little bit more about Isadora Capri, because she's an interesting character, and one presumably we're going to see more of in season three. I know it was mentioned earlier that she tells Tyler that her father was a Hyde. We also learn that her boyfriend was a Hyde. So she has a lot of Hyde experience, and that kind of concerns me for Tyler. I'm curious what happened exactly to her father, and is the story she tells about her boyfriend actually true in terms of, how I think we learned that he was killed as well. So is she like this Hyde hunter deep down inside? Like I don't know what to make of her.
Yeah, I don't trust her. She takes a very deep interest in particular students, like Wednesday, like Enid, like Tyler, and she comes at it from a perspective of like deep empathy and understanding for the experiences that they're going through. But she also, I think, in a way, fear mongers a bit. Like, I think she did this with Enid because, I mean, I don't recall if this ever comes up anywhere else, but I think that she's the only one who talks about what an alpha wolf is and what the reality of living that way is. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, was that an attempt to actually connect with Enid and help her, or was it kind of a surreptitious way to force her to run away?
So like maybe she does have the power to turn back, but
Yeah,
she's got it in her head that she can't, so she's still in wolf form.
right. And I mean, I don't know, it's just if I were if I had like, a young student werewolf who was like possibly going to get in the way of my plans, if I have negative plans for people like Wednesday and Tyler, I would probably want to get the werewolf out of there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like there was a bit of a bait and switch with her where it was like, oh, is she being set up to be, more than she appears, and she wasn't for now.
Right. I
But
kept waiting for
yeah.
her also to have some kind of power with like there was that one scene in season one where she was playing the piano at the insane asylum, but she never got to the crescendo, and I kept waiting to see like if something was going to happen when she got to the
Yeah.
crescendo of the song, and it's I don't know, it was kind of weird that they cut her off before she got to that point because they
Mm-hmm.
put such an emphasis on honing in on how passionately she was playing and how entranced everyone was. And yeah, she clearly seems to know a lot about werewolves and hides. I feel like we haven't seen the extent of her power for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And We haven't seen her transform though, right? Like, I
I
know
don't
Tyler
believe
says that he
so.
can smell it on her, but I wonder, is she maybe stuck in between somehow,
Maybe.
and she can't fully transform? Because you would expect it throughout at some point this season we would have seen that happen. We didn't.
What if she's a hybrid?
What is that?
Oh,
Like a hybrid of both?
like
Ooh,
a hide werewolf,
that'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
hide wolf,
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe she's also an alpha.
Can I
maybe.
just
She
say
talks
too,
about like you know how Enid was late to transform, so maybe she's never transformed.
maybe,
Maybe.
and I'll just say I thought the werewolf in this season was one of the best werewolves I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Wednesday's
agree.
werewolf looked great too when
She really
she
did.
transformed like when Enid was her.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I thought they did a really great job with those effects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought so too. Because, man, there are definitely lots of examples of really gnarly, not in a good way, looking werewolves in Hollywood. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought they knocked it out of the park. But also, like, it was very original. Like, the design of the werewolves,
Yeah.
they weren't trying to make them look like, a traditional Hollywood esque werewolf.
And she's got a
I
little
like
bit
that
of
they
the
keep.
blue. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say the same thing. I like that they keep her like the coloring of her hair and like she's got her nail polish still too on the
Yeah.
claws. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay. Anything else we want to hit on before we kind of wrap up officially with some thoughts ahead for season three?
Uh, I want to know why Aunt Ophelia is writing Wednesday Must Die on the wall. Like, what's that about?
Good question.
Is it like just simply a premonition? And as a seer, she's just like, hey, like, I don't make the news, I just report on it. Or if grandmama is using Ophelia to target Wednesday in some way. That's the other option I see.
Well, let's not forget too that didn't Grandmama offer Wednesday to come stay with her for the
Yep.
summer?
Yeah, and she turned her down because she was upset about what she
That's
said
why
about
Wednesday
her
must die.
father.
They're all looking forward
Ah,
to, a family barbecue.
I mean, like maybe she does keep her around for the death prediction. She's in the death industry.
That's
Oh,
It's
true.
probably
that's true.
helpful
Oh
to
my
know.
God. It's like insider trading,
Yeah, she's
basically.
like, oh, that
Holy
person's
shit.
gonna die. Let me just go cozy on up. Make sure I get their
Oh
business.
man, that's a really good catch. Yep.
Hmm.
I think that's what it is.
Well, it certainly is exciting to think about season three, which I'm guessing we'll get in 2027. Is that
That is the
most
rumor that's
likely?
going
Yeah.
around. Yeah, it really isn't. I mean, like, listen, I've really enjoyed these two seasons. I know you both have too, but it is really unfortunate that it takes so long for Netflix to churn out 8 episodes.
I know.
You know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it was a bigger gap between season 1 and 2 because of the writers' strike, if I'm thinking about the
Yes.
timeline correctly. So hopefully we do. I think I read that it was like early 2027 was the prediction.
Fingers
So
crossed.
yeah, hopefully that's all we'll have to wait this time. Also, because, like, I mean, these kids are supposed to be playing high schoolers.
Yeah.
You know, don't do the Stranger Things thing where, like, the kids are,
Pugsley literally
yeah.
cannot get any older.
No. No,
Unless
cuz
they're
yeah,
going to do a time jump.
he really shot up between season 1 and 2.
Yeah. Not as funny as I don't know if either of you watched Ginny and Georgia, but there's like no time jump between the this current season and the last one, and the brother is still supposed to be like in third grade, and this kid's like voice has dropped. He's like
Oh,
6
man.
inches taller. Looks like
That's
a proper little teenager. And still playing a third grader.
Maybe he got held back.
Many, many years. But yeah,
he'll be as tall as Lurch by next season.
wouldn't that be something?
Well, if we had to make one prediction for season 3, what would it be? It's early, I know.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely. I really do hope. Maybe it's not a prediction, but maybe it's a hope. I really do hope that they spend some time on the Wednesday Fester road trip because that just seems like it'll be a lot of fun with those characters. Definitely, Grandmama is going to play a very central role in the next season. I think they did a good job of building her up for that this season. Um, and yeah, I would just say more family secrets to be revealed because clearly we haven't even scratched the surface.
Pam, what about you?
I would say, well, initially I was thinking about like how, it seems like Wednesday still needs a mentor. And initially my thought was that Ophelia was going to fill that void. But now I kind of feel like it'll be somebody completely new, even though she was given Ophelia's diary by Morticia. That was like a big symbolic moment of trust for the two of them. And then other than that, I agree with Laura. I think that the family secret's probably going to center more on Grandmama than it will on Morticia and Gomez in season 3, which will be refreshing overall, I
Yeah,
think.
we've gotten a fair bit of secrets about Morticia and Gomez that have been revealed through the first 2 seasons, right?
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I was also thinking about, we mentioned earlier that Weems was going to be taking a sabbatical. And so I think, in terms of spirit guides for Wednesday, I'm not really sure what that means. Like who is going to be, to your point, Pam, like who's going to be helping to give her the direction that she needs. I don't think we're going to get, Principal Dort in that role, you know, back to back headmasters. So I'm curious to see how that develops, or maybe she kind of flies solo for a while now that she has her powers back. But I could see maybe we're leading up to a showdown between Enid and whatever pack Tyler is going to become a part of, and maybe we do get that bit of redemption for Tyler, because I know, Laura, you were saying earlier how that it's almost you know too common, right? Like that you go down the road of creating this redemptive story arc for a character like Tyler. But I do think we've seen flashes of his humanity, and I do think that that is going to come full circle in season 3.
Yeah, I think we're definitely led to believe that somewhere in himself he feels guilty about what he's doing. Just thinking about how he shows up at the hospital too at the beginning of the second half of the season. At first, his appearance and his demeanor towards Wednesday seems very malevolent, but then we see, when she's chasing him and he hides, he actually looks kind of afraid, kind of like stressed out about the situation. So it's kind of like he does a 180. But I don't know. I still maintain, maybe this is my big sis moment for people, but like, I don't care how guilty or conflicted a man looks while he's actively watching you be buried alive. If he leaves you buried alive, I don't care how guilty he felt about it.
It's like you can't fix him, girl.
No, you can't.
But it's Wednesday, though. She likes being buried alive.
She did say that
she
was
enjoyed
enjoyable.
that.
Yeah.
So, Well, we'll definitely see what happens once season 3 is released. But this was a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
I know we say this a lot when we talk about Wednesday, but always up for doing a follow-up episode. I'm sure that there were plenty Easter eggs and other moments throughout season 2 that we kind of glossed over on our first watch through. So if listeners have questions or comments or their own theories they want to share, definitely send them our way, and we'd be happy to do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, that would be amazing. There's a lot more that we could dig into here and there's a lot of subtext.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Mm.
I did like what you were saying, like maybe even doing an episode where we pull in all of the different Poe analogies.
Yeah.
Well, that would be cool.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Poe name drop. I mean, the school's called Nevermore, you
Right.
know,
True.
and he's one of their most celebrated alumni. We see
Hmm.
that as well.
And they
So,
talk about ravens all the time.
yep.
So there you go.
I'd be all for that. And who knows? Maybe they'll cast Poe in season 3.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Who's gonna play him?
I don't know. I'm having a hard time thinking off the top of my head who that could be.
Well, you have
Listeners, let
over
us
a
know who
year
you
to think
think.
about it.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of time.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We, of course, appreciate your support of the show. Be sure to follow us in your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. And you can also follow us on social media. We're at What the Hype Podcast on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram, and at What the Hype Show on X. Our website is whatthehypepodcast.com. And as we were just mentioning, if you want to email us, you can do that at whatthehypepodcast@gmail.com. And finally, does a friend or family member need a little dose of Wednesday in their life? Let's face it, who doesn't? You can share this episode with them and tell them that we're walking through every aspect of pop culture each and every week. So that'll do it for this Wednesday season 2 reaction episode. I'm Micah.
I'm Laura. I
And
wasn't
I'm
sure our
Pamela.
order.
We figured it out.
We didn't pre-plan that. Well, I mean,
No.
we can tighten it up in post. That's always
Yeah.
the vibe. But
Bye,
thanks so
everybody.
much, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Bye.